Hello, my name is Marcus Reed. I'm 38 years old. And the moment I knew my relationship was over wasn't when I caught her lying, or when she started acting distant. It was when she looked me straight in the eyes and said, "I don't owe you loyalty." Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I messed up." Not even, "This is complicated." Just, "I don't owe you loyalty." And in that moment, something inside me went completely quiet. Because you can argue about feelings, you can work through distance, you can even survive mistakes. But once someone tells you they don't owe you loyalty, there's nothing left to fix. Her name was Vanessa. We'd been together for almost 6 years. Not married, but close enough that everyone assumed it was just a matter of time. We lived together, shared bills, shared routines, shared a life that looked stable from the outside. And that's the thing about relationships like that. They don't break all at once. They slowly stop being real. At first, it was small things. She started going out more, not inviting me, not even pretending to. Then came the late replies, the "I'll text you later" that never came, the phone always face down, the little smile at messages she didn't show me. I noticed. Of course I noticed. But I didn't react right away. Because when you've built something with someone, you don't want to be the person who destroys it over a feeling. So I gave it time, gave her space. Told myself it was stress, work, life. Anything that didn't force me to admit something was changing. But deep down, I already knew. You always do. The problem is, knowing something and accepting it are two very different things. The night everything finally came out was nothing special. No big event, no dramatic setup. Just a normal Tuesday. She got home late, again, dropped her bag, didn't look at me right away, and that was enough. Because when someone avoids eye contact in their own home, it means they're carrying something they don't want you to see. "Where were you?" I asked. Calm, not aggressive, just direct. She sighed, like I was the problem for asking. "Out," she said. One word, short, dismissive. That was new, that tone, that attitude. Like I had crossed a line just by wanting a simple answer. "With who?" I asked, and that's when everything shifted. She turned, looked at me, and there was something in her expression I hadn't seen before. Not guilt, not fear. Something colder, confidence. The kind that comes from someone who no longer feels accountable to you. "Why does it matter?" she said. That question, that's when you know something is already gone. Because people who respect you don't ask why it matters. They understand that it does. I stood there for a second. Let that sink in. Then I said, "Because we're together." Simple, obvious. At least, it used to be. She laughed, not loud, just a small, dismissive exhale, like I had said something outdated, something she no longer believed in. "That doesn't mean I owe you anything," she said, and that's when I asked the question, the one I probably already knew the answer to. "Are you seeing someone else?" Silence, then a shrug, not denial, not even hesitation, just a shrug, and then she said it, the sentence that ended everything. "I don't owe you loyalty." No anger, no apology, no emotion at all. Just a statement, cold, final. And in that moment, I didn't feel rage, I didn't feel heartbreak, I didn't even feel shock. I felt clarity, because suddenly, everything made sense. The distance, the phone, the late nights, the way she had already emotionally checked out weeks ago. I looked at her for a long moment, waiting for something, anything. A sign that she didn't mean it, that this was just anger, a mistake, but it never came. She just stood there, calm, certain, like she had already moved on, and was just informing me. And that's when I realized something important. You don't fight for someone who doesn't believe they owe you basic respect. You don't argue with someone who has already decided you don't matter. And you definitely don't beg someone to stay when they've already shown you they're gone. So, I didn't argue, I didn't raise my voice, I didn't ask another question. I just looked at her one last time, nodded once, and turned around. And I walked away. I didn't slam the door, I didn't grab my things, I didn't say anything dramatic on the way out. That's what she expected. A reaction, anger, a scene she could later use to justify everything she had already done. But I gave her nothing. And that's what confused her the most. Because when people cross a line like that, they're ready for a fight. They're ready to defend themselves, to argue, to twist things just enough to make themselves feel right. But silence doesn't give them anything to work with. I walked into the bedroom, opened the closet, took out a bag, and started packing. Not everything, just the essentials: clothes, laptop, a few personal things. The kind of stuff you take when you know you're not coming back. I could feel her watching me from the doorway. Didn't say anything at first, just stood there, trying to understand what was happening. "What are you doing?" she finally asked. Her voice wasn't confident anymore. It wasn't cold. There was something else there now. Uncertainty. I kept folding my clothes, didn't look at her. "You said enough," I replied. Simple, calm, final, that hit. I could feel it, because for the first time that night, she didn't have a quick response. "You're seriously leaving?" she asked. And that question told me everything. She didn't expect consequences. She expected tolerance, that I'd stay, that I'd argue, that I'd try to fix something she had already broken. I zipped the bag, turned around, looked at her. Yes. Just one word. And suddenly, she looked different. The confidence was gone, not completely, but cracked, like something didn't go the way she thought it would. "You're overreacting," she said quickly. There it was, the shift from control to damage control. I almost smiled, because that's always the next step. When people realize they've gone too far, they try to minimize it, make you question yourself, make you feel like your reaction is the problem, not what they did. "You said you don't owe me loyalty," I said, still calm, still steady. She rolled her eyes slightly. "It's not that simple," she replied. Of course it wasn't. It never is when they need it not to be. I nodded. "Actually, it is," I said. And for the first time, she didn't interrupt. Because deep down, she knew. She had said it. Not in anger, not in a moment of confusion. She meant it. And now she was seeing what that actually looked like. I picked up my bag, walked past her, stopped for a second near the door. Not because I had something to say, because I wanted to see if she would. She didn't, not right away. And that silence said more than anything else. No apology, no wait. No attempt to stop me, just hesitation. And that hesitation told me something important. She didn't think I'd actually leave. She thought this was temporary, that I'd cool off, come back, resume everything like before. But I wasn't angry, and that's the difference. Angry people come back, clear people don't. I opened the door, stepped outside, and that's when she finally spoke. "Marcus." I stopped. Didn't turn around. "What?" I said. There was a pause. Then she said, "You're really just going to walk away?" I almost laughed, not because it was funny, because of the irony. She had already walked away. Weeks ago, months maybe, emotionally, mentally. She just didn't expect me to do it physically. "Yes," I said, and I meant it. No hesitation, no doubt, just truth. I walked out, closed the door behind me, and didn't look back, because looking back is how people get pulled into things they already know are over. That night, I drove with no destination, no music, no distractions. Just the sound of the road and my own thoughts finally catching up to reality. And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, everything made sense, not in a painful way, in a clear way. She didn't change suddenly. She revealed who she had already become. And I didn't lose anything that night. I just stopped holding on to something that wasn't there anymore. I ended up at a small hotel on the edge of the city. Nothing fancy, just a place to sleep, to think, to exist without her voice in the background. I put my bag down, sat on the edge of the bed, and stared at the wall for a long time, not replaying the argument, not questioning myself, just quiet. That kind of quiet you only get when something finally ends. My phone buzzed. Her name. I looked at it, let it ring, then it stopped. A message came in. "You're being dramatic." I didn't respond. Another one. "We need to talk." Still nothing. And then the third. "Are you really going to throw this away?" I stared at that one for a second, then locked my phone, because she still didn't understand. I wasn't throwing anything away. She already had. And I was just the one who finally accepted it. I didn't reply that night, or the next morning, or the day after that. Not because I was trying to punish her. Because I didn't see a reason to respond. That's something people don't understand. Silence isn't always a strategy. Sometimes, it's just the absence of anything left to say. My phone kept lighting up. Calls, messages, missed attempts to pull me back into something that had already ended. The first few were still confident. You're overreacting. We just need to talk. Stop acting like this. Same tone, same mindset. Like this was just a temporary situation. Like I'd calm down and come back. But I didn't. And slowly, the tone started changing. By the third day, the messages were shorter, less controlled, more emotional. Can you at least answer me? Why are you ignoring me? This isn't like you. That one stood out. This isn't like you? And she was right. It wasn't. Because the version of me she knew would have answered, would have tried to fix it, would have explained everything calmly and given her space to make sense of it. But that version of me was built on one assumption, that she respected me. And once that assumption was gone, so was that version of me. I went back to work, kept my routine, gym in the morning, long hours during the day, simple meals, no distractions, just structure. Because structure keeps your mind from drifting back into places it doesn't need to go anymore. By the end of the week, her messages changed again. This time, there was no confidence left. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. You know that's not what I meant, that line. You know that's not what I meant. People use it when they realize the words they said actually have consequences. But meaning doesn't matter when the message is clear, and hers had been very clear. I don't owe you loyalty. There's no softer version of that. No hidden meaning, no misunderstanding. It's exactly what it sounds like, and that's what she was starting to realize now. Not because she suddenly understood the damage, because she was starting to feel the consequences. Another message came later that night. We need to talk in person. I stared at that one for a while, then put my phone down, because she still thought this could be solved with a conversation, that if we just sat down, she could explain it away, reframe it, soften it enough for me to accept. But some things don't get softened, some things don't get explained, some things just end. A few days later, I went back to the apartment, not to see her, to get the rest of my things. I chose a time I knew she'd be at work. I didn't want a conversation, didn't want closure, didn't want anything that could pull me back into a situation I had already stepped out of. The apartment felt different when I walked in, quieter, colder, not because of her. Because I wasn't emotionally attached to it anymore. That changes everything. I packed the rest of my stuff quickly, no hesitation, no second guessing, just movement. But as I was about to leave, I noticed something, her things, still everywhere, still organized, still normal, like nothing had changed on her side, and that's when it clicked. She didn't think this was permanent, she thought I needed time, that I'd come back, that eventually things would go back to how they were, and that's why she wasn't panicking yet. Not really, because she still believed she had control. So I did something simple. I took my key off the counter, left it there, right in the center, where she couldn't miss it. No note, no message, no explanation, just a statement. And that's when everything shifted, because that key wasn't just a key. It was the last connection, the last access point, the last sign that I might come back. And now, it was gone. That night, my phone rang again. This time, I answered. Not because I wanted to talk, because I wanted to hear the difference. She picked up immediately. "Marcus," she said. Her voice was different now. No confidence, no control, just tension. "I saw the key," she said quickly. Of course she did. "That's it?" she asked. And there it was. The first real crack. Because now, for the first time, she was starting to understand. This wasn't temporary. This wasn't something I was working through. This wasn't a phase. This was the end. "Yes," I said. Silence. Heavy. Real. "You're serious," she whispered. Not a question, a realization. Yes. And that was the moment everything changed, because for the first time since she said those words, "I don't owe you loyalty," she realized something. She didn't owe me loyalty, but she also wasn't going to have me anymore. And those two things finally connected. She didn't hang up right away. Most people would. After hearing something like that, After realizing there's no way to soften it, no way to reverse it, they disconnect, protect themselves. But she stayed on the line, breathing, quiet, like she was trying to find the right words to undo everything she had already done. "Marcus, wait," she said finally. That word, wait. It always comes too late. I didn't respond, I just let her talk. Because at this point, I wasn't having a conversation. I was listening to the consequences unfold. "You're just going to throw this away?" she asked. Same question, different tone. No confidence now, no control, just confusion. Because in her mind, this wasn't supposed to happen. She said what she said. She crossed the line. But she still expected things to stay the same. That's how people like her think. That your tolerance is permanent. That your patience has no limit. "That already happened," I said. Simple, direct. And for the first time, she didn't argue, because now she understood what I meant. There was a pause, longer this time. Then her voice dropped, softer. "I didn't mean it like that," she said. There it was again. The attempt to reshape the past, to make the words smaller, less real, less final. But words like that don't shrink, not once they've been said out loud. "You said exactly what you meant," I replied. No anger, no emotion, just truth. That's what made it hit, because you can fight anger, you can respond to emotion, but truth just sits there and forces you to face it. "I was upset," she said quickly. "We were arguing. I didn't think—" "That's the point," I cut in. "You didn't think." Silence. And this time, it wasn't defensive, it was heavy, because she knew. Deep down, she knew that wasn't just something she said in a moment. It was something she believed, at least enough to say it without hesitation. "I made a mistake," she said again. But now, it sounded different, not controlled, not calculated, just small. And that's when I heard it. Something new. Not regret, fear, because for the first time, she wasn't trying to fix the situation. She was trying to stop losing it. "I can fix this," she added quickly. "We can fix this." We, that word again. Back now that everything else was falling apart. But I didn't respond to it, because there was nothing to fix. Fixing implies something is still there, something worth rebuilding, something that didn't collapse completely. This wasn't that. "You said you don't owe me loyalty," I said. "So why are we even having this conversation?" That question, that one landed differently, because it forced her to confront her own logic, her own words. And suddenly, she had no answer. "I didn't mean it like that," she repeated. Again. Same line, same attempt, but weaker now, because repetition doesn't make something more true. It just shows you don't have anything else. I leaned back in the chair, closed my eyes for a second, not tired, just done. "Then what did you mean?" I asked. She hesitated, and that hesitation was everything, because if there was another meaning, she would have said it already, but there wasn't. I felt trapped," she said. There it was, the justification, the rewritten version of the story. I felt like I couldn't breathe, like I needed space. I nodded slowly, not agreeing, just acknowledging, because I had heard it before. Different words, same idea. People don't leave because they're trapped. They leave because they want something else. "I gave you space," I said. She didn't respond. "I gave you time. I didn't question you. I didn't control you," I continued. "And you still chose to say that." Silence again, and now, there was nothing left to hide behind. No arguments, no explanations, no emotional leverage, just reality. "I didn't think you'd leave," she said finally. There it was, the truth, not the clean version, not the one she had been trying to present, the real one. She didn't think there would be consequences. She thought I'd stay. That I'd tolerate it, that I'd argue, get upset, and then come back. And that realization, that she had completely misjudged me, that's what finally broke her. Her voice cracked. "I thought you'd fight for me." I almost smiled, not because it was funny, because of how backwards that sounded. "You don't fight for someone who tells you they don't owe you loyalty," I said, and that was it. That was the sentence that ended everything, because it left no room for interpretation, no room for hope, no room for negotiation, just truth, clear, final, and on the other end of the line, she had nothing left to say. She didn't speak for a few seconds, not even breathing loud enough for me to hear, just silence. The kind that only happens when someone finally understands. There's no way out of what they've done. I didn't think it would end like this, she said quietly. And that sentence said everything. Not, I didn't want this. Not, I regret what I did. Just, I didn't think it would end like this, because in her mind, there was always another version. One where she could say whatever she wanted, do whatever she wanted, and still come back to the same place, to me. Unchanged, available, waiting. But reality doesn't work like that. You said you don't owe me loyalty, I replied. This is what that looks like. No anger, no edge, just clarity. And that made it heavier than anything else I could have said. I know, she whispered, and for the first time, I believed her. Not because she suddenly understood everything, but because she finally felt it. The consequence, not the idea of it, the reality. I just thought, she started, then stopped. I didn't ask her to finish, because I already knew. She thought she had options, that she could explore something else, test something else, and if it didn't work, come back, that I'd still be there, that I wouldn't change, that I wouldn't leave, that I wouldn't choose myself. But I did, and now she was standing in the result of that. I don't know what to do, she said. That was the first honest sentence she had said all night. Not controlled, not shaped, just real. Because for the first time, she wasn't trying to manage the situation. She was facing it, and there was nothing left to control. That's not my problem anymore, I said. Not cold, not harsh, just true. Because once someone removes themselves from your life, you don't carry their confusion for them anymore. You don't guide them. You don't fix things for them. You let them figure it out, the same way they expected you to. There was a small sound on the other end, like she was trying to hold something back. Tears maybe, regret, something. But it didn't change anything. I'm sorry, she said again. And this time, it sounded different. Not desperate, not strategic, just late, very late. I know, I replied, and I meant it, because she probably was sorry. People usually are, after they realize what they lost. But being sorry doesn't rebuild trust. It doesn't erase words. It doesn't undo choices. It just shows up after everything is already broken. There was nothing else to say. No final argument, no dramatic ending, just silence. And for the first time, it didn't feel heavy. It felt clean. I guess this is it, she said, not a question, a realization. Yes, I answered, simple, final, and that was the end of it. No goodbye, no take care, just the sound of the call disconnecting. I put my phone down, looked around the room, and realized something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not because everything was perfect, not because it didn't hurt at all, but because it was clear. No confusion, no mixed signals, no pretending something broken could still be fixed. Just truth. And once you have that, you don't need anything else. She said she didn't owe me loyalty. And she was right. She didn't. But she also didn't get to keep me. And in the end, that was the part she never saw coming.